Welcome to OAA Now, your home for Oakland Activities Association news and information. Here's your host, Sammy Taramina.
Welcome to OAA Now. Here I'm Sammy Taramina, blogger around the OAA, the host of Last Week Brain Cells, host of Queen Tamina's and Orion Television. I'd like to welcome those watching on Local Voice on SoundCloud and those on Orion Television. We got... What up, Coach?
Sammy, how we doing, buddy?
I'm good. You?
Good.
Yep. Ready to go?
Yeah.
Let's
do it.
All right. Well, we got the coach of the Falcons, Coach Flaherty here calling in here. Coach, thank you for calling in this week. And congratulations on getting the state semifinals.
Well, thanks, Sammy. Really appreciate it. And as always, appreciate everything you do for the OAA and for high school sports, especially high school football, man. You're the best.
I appreciate that. Let's talk about, last week's game against St. Clair Shores Lakeview. And I want to talk about your feelings in that first half. You know what I mean? Seeing you're running that wing T offense that the Huskies had. I mean, what was your thought process in that first half? Because I know it's pretty frustrating when you have to deal with that wing T offense that Lakeview runs.
Yeah, I mean, it's a physical week. It's a physical game. It reminds me when we play Seaholm, it's like your limited possessions and, they're eating clock and, it can be frustrating because, you try to mimic that offense for a week and then, you got to play against it on the night and they've been doing it year round and it's the first time we see it. So it's a period of adjustments and, I think it's just a matter of kind of settling in. We always talk about weathering the storm and, then running into the storm. It's just got to adjust to it, get used to it and just believe in each other and, just keep playing hard, keep playing tough.
And when you look at a course, you guys, that first half, you only had the ball for about, 2 minutes and 34 seconds in that first half. And I know that had to be frustrating for your offense and your players, but your defense played outstanding in that, limiting the Huskies to only 3 points.
Yeah, they're good, man. I'm really proud of the guys. They, we got 2 stops, on them. They had 3 possessions. They got 2 stops. And, I don't know if you followed it there much, but they went down and scored and then they onside kicked on us and they got it. I thought it was a little controversial. I thought our guy had the ball recovered, was on his knees, but anyways, they got it. And I think, and then the very next play, we had 12 guys on the field because we were a little discombobulated and they gave him another 15 yards. And, this is under, 4 minutes and a half. And it's like, holy shoot, we only possessed the ball for 6 plays and we ended up getting a stop and took it down and got 3 points to, get some points on the board in the first half. So I just think the resolve of my guys is what I'm really, really proud of. They just had their backs up against it and they answered the call. And I think that set the tone for the second half.
And I apologize for that score was 7-3. I apologize for that. But you look at that. Let's talk about that second half. That second half. You guys adjusted well. It started feeling like Rose football. But I do want to talk about that one play, that onside kick that you guys recovered. What was your thought process of doing that play, that really changed the whole complexion of the game?
Yeah, I think after the score there, we said we were going to put the thing on the ground. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. You put the thing on the ground and it wobbles around. And they had a couple of replacements on their kickoff returns. So well, let's go kick it down to a young guy and see if they can handle it. And if they can't handle it, at least we'll start with decent field position. So that was it. But, Dom Taylor, who's one of our, senior leaders and a 3-year starter, he recovered the sucker and covered like a dog. And, he got the ball.
And obviously that led to a lot of change in that game. Of course, you guys got Lakeview out of that wing T offense, making them forced to throw. That's a credit to your defense. Your defense in that game just played outstanding. It just played outstanding. Talk about that defense against shutting down that wing T offense.
Yeah, it's like this sounds crazy, but their explosive plays were on passes. Most of their explosive plays throughout the year were on passes, meaning anything 18 yards or more were passes. So really, I thought our secondary and Coach Curran and Van Foss did a great job with the secondary, getting them prepared, and we actually held them. We gave up a long 56-yard TD pass, late in the third quarter, I think, and and that kind of was a bummer. But I think we were kind of already in hand there. But I think that was just the big thing, is more like stopping them passing, and then just the thing about that offense is you've just got to stay positive. Like it's just going to be a grind, and if they get you demoralized and beat down, then you just that's what they try to do. So I think it's more attitude than anything else, just staying positive. Like, okay, we're going to get it. We'll get our chance. We'll move the ball. And I just thought the guys had a great night as far as resolve. And then I think our coaches did an excellent job game planning and preparing for them. They were just, Coach Wilson and Coach Hafter just do an awesome job setting the table. And Coach Salter were the outside backers. It was just a great collaborative effort between the players and the coaches.
And also a thing I got to give credit to as well is your offensive line. I mean, like your offensive line, you lose an alignment like Avery Guy, who's now in Ann Arbor. So talk about that development of that offensive line before we talk individual players.
Yeah, I think they, we lost our starting center, Leland Swanson, earlier in the year against Harper Woods. So really, that was a huge blow to us. He was a key contributor last year and this year. And then we lost him, and it's just, I think our guys have just responded extremely well, and just gotten better each week. I think their communication on the line and their calls is elite level, and it's kind of one of those things what's that, like we don't have maybe the same whatever big time blue chip guys, but collectively as a group, the synergy is probably, worth the same as the whole part from last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you look at, of course, I got to talk about Jeremiah here. I mean, like, what he's done in the postseason. I mean, like, I don't have the stats with me. I know he's been over 1,000 yards, has had 11 touchdowns this postseason. Talk about, Jeremiah's performance. You had two very good running backs last year in Amario and Noah. So talk about, what Jeremiah has been doing and especially this postseason success he's been on.
Well, I think to start off, we always like to try to have two guys to get two different looks. I think it creates, stuff for our defense. So the other guy, Carter Anderson, who's a senior, who's had a great year, and he creates a different type of running back in there. So we kind of get two looks, and he's had an excellent season, especially the postseason too. But in speaking it with Jeremiah, I think it's a twofold thing. I think one, any other year he would have played for us as a sophomore, but we were pretty loaded at running back last year, as you mentioned. So he played junior varsity, and he just, we called him up in the playoffs, and he has some good runs. But he's been patient and bid his time, and he's really, really good. But I think that adjustment to varsity football, like he's just, just takes a little bit, and I think he's starting to come into his own, as is our offensive line. So that's where I think it's a collaborative thing there, where he's really coming into an excellent varsity football player and running back, but our offensive line is kind of gelling and coming together too. So he keeps getting better each week, and it's it's a credit to him. He's just a great kid.
And then, of course, the play of Lavelle. I mean, obviously, Lavelle, I call him a game manager. Obviously, he's been playing very well. So talk about how Lavelle's been handling this postseason run.
I think again, it's a collaborative effort. I think we kind of always talk about the partnership between the coaches and the players, and I think Lavelle's done a really good job of mashing well with Coach Sutton, the quarterback coach, and trying to put him in positions to have success, and trying to really hone into what his skill set does. And I think that's where where we probably, us as coaches made some mistakes earlier in the year and trying to force feed and trying to say, hey, we got to have him do this. And it's like, well, maybe that really isn't his strong suit now, so it's more like, kind of to shorten the scale of what he does and let him have success and let him create and not have him, worry so much about stuff and just try to say, okay, this is what we need you to do. And he does a great job with it. So, and I just think he's, just like I said, with the offensive line and with Jeremiah and with Lavelle, everybody's kind of gotten a little bit better each week and they're really playing their best football right now.
And now you're back in the state semifinals. Of course, last season, we know what happened with Orchard Lake St. Mary's. We know you had a veteran team. That was heartbreaking last year, losing that game in overtime. Now you're going to be hanging Ypsilanti Lincoln to take on my co-host Ian Locke's alma mater, the Dexter Dreadnoughts. So, have you started looking at film with Dexter? Any studying game plans with them? And what's your thoughts on seeing the Dreadnoughts in the state semifinals?
Yeah, I think they're really good. They're really good, and but it's a state semifinal, so like, this is our fifth time in the past 9 years going to the semis. So I think we've learned a lot of stuff along the way, including last year's heartbreaker, and you just take those experiences and you try to be better. I think we got a great venue up at Ypsilanti Lincoln. It's a great turf, and being an alumni of Eastern Michigan, I love playing in Ypsilanti, so I think luck's on our side, and we're just looking forward to it, man. We're looking forward to putting our best foot forward and having a great afternoon.
And when you look at Dexter, and they got a really good quarterback wide receiver combination, sort of like the Michigan State days when you had like players like like Jeff Smoker and Charles Rogers combination like that. So talk about that combination you're going to be seeing with Dexter. They're making state records this year. So talk about that quarterback receiver combination you're going to be dealing with.
Yeah, they're really good. It's a great system. Coach Jacobs does an awesome job. In the short time he's really turned that program around. Like they were, less than 10 years ago, they were a doormat, man. They were over for a couple of years, and Coach Jacobs come in there, and he's got a great system. We played them back in 21 down at Wayne State, and they kicked our butt. So we know we're up against it. But I think at the same time, I think, we're doing some pretty good stuff. We're playing at a high level too. Like I said, when you're in the semifinals, like there's really no one's a bad team. Everybody's pretty good. I think what's important is try to put, all your focus and attention on just the preparation and just play for that afternoon and have a great afternoon, not worry about, because that's, in my experience, that's what it's been. It's not like about, everybody's hot. Everybody's won a bunch in a row. You know what I'm saying? It's about, hitting that afternoon and having the guys prepared and just in that zone where they're going to play their very best football. And we're going to coach our very best game. And I think we'll be okay.
What's it going to take? What's the keys in your mind for Groves to get to Ford Field? What is the keys for the Falcons to get there for the first time in school history?
Like I said, I don't want to I don't mean to be coach speak, but it's like, I don't, I just think it's about having a great afternoon, just having a great afternoon. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like right now I want us to win Monday. We got to win Monday's practice, so like, that's like, I don't want to put all that big thing on the guys. I just want to say, here's what we got to do. We got to try to limit number 3, who's their best receiver. Yep. He's really good. And try to make that quarterback work his tail off, and then on top of that, play gross football. Tough, hard-nosed, physical football, and follow our game plan and take it to them. That's what I want to do. And we do that, then everything will be, okay.
Obviously, being in the white this year, talk about, the division, getting you guys prepared for this postseason. How important has playing a schedule like this prepared you guys?
Yeah, it's. I mean, football is. I mean, the white's not like the red, but it's still, the red's a gauntlet, man, but the white's still really, really good. And it prepares you, there's no gimmies, there's no freebies. Even the teams that, haven't had a ton of wins are still, solid. And they got players, and it prepares you. You're ready to go when you're done playing in that league. You're ready for the playoffs.
And when you look at a course, this matchup, and this is going to be, and obviously, the bright lights. You know what I mean? How key is it for you and the players to say, keep the lion in the cage? I mean, like that's really the key concept. So talk about, just taking it a day at a time for you guys.
Yeah, that's kind of how we, operate. I think, like I said, it's having the experience of been, just our fifth time there in 9 years. So I think we're, meal plans and stuff and practices and spacing out the practices and not doing too much, but not doing too little. So I think having the experience doing that helps us a bunch. And, like I said before, it's like, it's not worried about, each play's, 6 seconds long, and it's got to be its own, life in itself. It's play that 6 seconds and then go to the next 6 seconds and just stack some plays together, and then I think we'll be okay.
Before I let you go, Coach, obviously you look at this matchup, obviously I know we got Adams' matchup taking on Detroit Cass Tech, the other OA matchup in the state semifinals in Division One. So when you look at this game, is there a theme for you guys just getting ready, just preparing you guys for this game?
I don't, I think we just talk about following a formula. It's just like there's a set of criteria we do each week, and some statistical, clarifications. Winning first down and winning the turnover battle and the field position battle. But the biggest thing I think that's helped us I took this from Clark Lee, the guy that's down at Vanderbilt. It's like you got to win the response. Like, how do you respond? Like, did you win the response? And like this past weekend, they did an onside kick. They recovered, and then we held them. We had the kick go on the ground. We recovered it, and they didn't respond. So it really comes down to like, how well do you respond? Because something bad's going to happen, and how well do you respond? If something unfortunate's going to happen, how do you respond? So concentrate on that, and we're going to be okay.
Groves coach Brendan Flaherty here. Thank you for calling in this week talking about the Falcons. Wish you guys the best of luck heading out to Ypsilanti to take on the Dreadnoughts of Dexter.
Thanks, Sammy. You're the best.
I appreciate it.
Yep. Take care.
Yep. So that was Groves coach Brendan Flaherty talking about the matchup for the Falcons as they take on the Dreadnoughts of Dexter. Of course, that is my co-host Ian Locke's alma mater. So it should be a very interesting game. I mean, it'll be really, really interesting to see how that one goes. Then we have another OA matchup, and this is in the Division One state semifinals, and we have Adams taking on Detroit Cass Tech, and that one's going to be a real challenge for Coach Tony Petrino and the Highlanders. And you look at that matchup, you look at Detroit Cass Tech, and they got athletes everywhere. I mean, like, of course, it starts with CJ Sadler. Their quarterbacks early on, then he moved to wide receiver / defensive back. I mean, Detroit Cass Tech, they are just absolutely loaded. And you look at that team and you say to yourself, oh boy. And, they're one of the top teams in the state for a reason. And a lot of that is because of the talent that they have. And obviously, Sadler is the key catalyst to this. And, that's really where, if you're Coach Tony Petrino, You look at what he did against Saline. I mean, he scored. He caught 2 touchdown passes. He had a pick 6, and then he had another interception. So Corey Sadler is going to be a problem for Adams in this game. They also have a good quarterback as well in Donald Tabern. I know he's been viewed as the best one of the best quarterbacks in Troy Cass Tech history. You've had some good quarterbacks that come out of Detroit Cass. You had Jason Campbell there. This is going to be an interesting game. And also they got athletes as well. They got a good offensive line. Coach Petrino's going to have his hands full. They're going to have their hands full in this game. They're going to really have their hands full. Adams is a quarterback in Ryland Waters, and we know what he's more than capable of. Adams, of course, they knocked off Romeo 29-13. A lot of that, give credit to Coach Mike McFarland's defense for shutting down a high-octane Bulldogs offense who just put 56 on Macomb, Dakota a couple weeks ago. So you look at both matchups. Adams and Detroit Cass Tech. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff on Saturday over at Troy Athens. Groves, of course, we talked to Coach Flaherty. They're going to be playing at Ypsilanti Lincoln against Dexter. Also 1 o'clock. You look at the winner of Groves and Dexter, they'll either take on Portage Central or Orchard Lake St. Mary's. Orchard Lake St. Mary's, we know the way they've been playing. And they've been on a mission. They knocked off North Farmington. And they knocked off Berman Brother Rice. And then they went up to Midland Dow last week and just hammered the Chargers. So now they're going to be playing the Portage Central. And Portage Central, the Mustangs, they had to survive against Traverse City Central last week, and they had to survive that game. So, it looks like whoever wins that Groves Dexter game is probably going to be staring at Orchard Lake St. Mary's in the Division II state finals. So, and then obviously you look at Division I, Adams, the winner Adams, Troy Cass Tech, probably going to see either most likely Novi Detroit Catholic Central or East Kent. Well, we're going to talk Novi Detroit Catholic Central's game with Clarkston in a couple minutes here. So you really think about both those matchups. And for Adams, it's a really tough matchup. And then when we talked to Coach Flaherty about the Dexter game, obviously the key for them is stopping the wide receiver duo, quarterback duo, on Cooper Arnett and Cole Navarra. Navarra is number 3 for Dexter. Navarra, look what he's been doing. We're gonna start with Arnett. Arnett had 576 passing yards and 8 touchdowns. And Navarra had 11 catches for 230 yards and 4 scores. All that against Gibraltar Carlson. And that game was a shootout. That game was 56-42 in favor of the Dreadnoughts. I can only imagine how Ian Locke is feeling today. I can really do. Because Dexter is a team that, they're very good. They're very good. So I can only imagine what Ian Locke is thinking today. This has got to be an exciting time for him. It's got to be. Because Dexter is having a deep run. Now they're playing an OA opponent in Groves. So I'm going to be very curious to see his reaction to this. I will be very curious because it's going to be a heck of a game between Groves and Dexter. It's going to be a really good game. And on the flip side, you got Adams, Detroit, Cass Tech, which Adams is almost in the same boat as Clarkston was from last week. It's going to be a gravest challenge for Adams. The key for Adams against Detroit Cass Tech is going to be time possession football. Adams, of course, runs severe. Detroit Cass Tech, they like to spread you out. They will like to use Corey Sadler a lot. They have Donald Tabern at quarterback. They have multiple athletes. So, athletic-wise, Detroit Cass Tech is better than Adams. But if it comes down to a scheme game, a time possession game, something always weird happens in the state semifinals that we don't expect. That's why I think Adams has a chance in this game. Because something weird always happens in this type of game. I mean, you look at Groves and Dexter. Groves has more than a shot against Dexter. If Groves beats Dexter, I can only imagine what Ian Locke's going to feel. I can only imagine. I mean, obviously the run Dexter's had, that's going to be a really good game. Adams and Detroit Cass Tech, that's going to be a great challenge for Adams. They have the scheme to do it. They run the veer. They run the triple option. That's going to be key. Can Adams play time possession football? Keep it away from Detroit Cass Tech. Because if Adams plays Detroit Cass Tech's game, they're done. That's the bottom line. That's the key for Coach Tony Petrino. Key for defensive coordinator Mike McFarland. And he's got his hands full. That's going to be the key. So we'll see what happens. Let's recap the other two games that surrounded OAA teams in the regional final here as well. Nobody Detroit Catholic Central, 42, Clarkston 13. I mean, Clarkston ran in to a team that, was motivated. They ran into a team that was, I don't know if I would say that they were better than Clarkston, but it looked like they were better than Clarkston. You look at, of course, the first drive, Clarkston scored a touchdown. With Lucas Bowman's touchdown, gave Clarkston 7-0 lead. Clarkston controlled the first quarter. In that second quarter, everything just went south. I mean, Clarkson's pass defense was just tortured by the Shamrocks, which led to easy touchdowns, and then nobody Detroit Catholic Central's defense got to Alex Wachensko. Their linebacker had a really good game. That game last week, really, I felt like in that game, Clarkson's pass defense was just absolutely exposed in that game. It was bad. I mean, and especially Clarkson's pass defense. 28 points allowed in the second quarter. And Clarkson's offense had a lot of trouble with their defense. They had a lot of trouble. To the fact that one point that game had running clock. Did not expect that. I really did not expect that. I mean, There were reasons why I had concerns about Clarkson's defense heading into the year. And nobody Detroit Catholic Central just basically exploited it. They're a very good team. Nobody Detroit Catholic Central. They are very good. But, it was shocking to see that Clarkson's offensive line had trouble with the Shamrocks. It was shocking that the way nobody Detroit Catholic Central exploded for 42 unanswered. I mean, it was shocking. They were the better team. They were the better team. So now you look at what Clarkson going forward, they lose 40 seniors. 40 seniors. You lose the Bowman, including the Bowman twins. Hayden Flavin up front. It's going to Northwestern. I think the twins, I think they're going to Ferris. I'm not entirely sure where they're going. You lose Hank Horning. You lose a lot of that offensive line. I mean, you're still going to be talented. You still got some very good players coming back. You got Alex Wachenko coming back. You have Cameron Love coming back. Your freshman JV teams both went undefeated this year. So the pipeline is still there for Clarkston. Clarkston's still going to be good next year. Question's going to be is how good are they going to be? I mean, because you look at next year's schedule for Clarkston, it's going to include week 1 against Macomb, Dakota, and then week 9 against Utica Eisner. So those are going to be really interesting games for Clarkston going forward. But knowing Coach Justin Pintar's team and his program, they're going to be back. They will be back. So Clarkston, yes, this was a very painful loss. Yes, they lose a lot of talent. A lot of what could have been. I mean, this team had the makings of a deep run to Ford Field. This team did. But they ran into a team that was better than them. And Novi Detroit Catholic Central. And it explained it. It explained it. You got to give the Shamrocks their credit. You got to give them their props. Other game we're talking about is in Division 4. Dearborn Devon Child took on Harper Woods. That game was played at Westland John Glenn because of everything that's been going on at Harper Woods surrounding what happened last week with their game against Harper Woods Chandler Park Academy. This, to me, was more of a shock than the Clarkson Novi Detroit Catholic Central game. Because last season, Harper Woods won 40-21 over Dearborn Devon Child. What Dearborn Devon Child did, you got to give them props, especially their defense, was they shut down a high-octane offense in Harper Woods. They shocked them 10-6. Nobody, even myself, did not see this coming. You look at that game and you study it. And you say to yourself, how does Harper Woods lose this game? Well, turnovers can do a team in. Especially on special teams. Special teams turnovers can really hurt you. Especially that in the second half. When you have a botched fumble that's recovered by Devon Child, which ended up leading to a touchdown by Marcelo Vici. That gave the Falcons a 10-6 lead. Harper Woods had a Dakota Grant touchdown off a Wildcat to give themselves a 6-3 lead, which they took that in the half before that fumble happened on the kickoff. And then Vici went in and scored, making it 10-6. But Harper Woods had chances. None bigger than they had a chance. They had a touchdown by Grant called back. And then they had a chance to go score again. But they fumbled, but their running back fumbled the ball. Credit Dearborn Devon Childs. You got to credit Dearborn Devon Childs. Michael DeSavio forced the fumble, recovered the ball at the goal line. And then allowed Dearborn Devon Childs to run a wing T offense. But Harper Woods' defense did a pretty good job shutting it down, giving their offense another chance. But their defense, Dearborn Devon Childs' defense, ended up being the entire story. Their defense was the story of that game. They got multiple stops, forced Harper Woods to turn the ball around downs at least 2 occasions, which gave them their first regional championship since 1996. So now you ask yourself this question. What next for Harper Woods? What's next for them? The other question I ask myself with Bo Clarkson and Harper Woods is the public-private school debate. You're seeing it right now. What's going on in the playoffs right now? Should the private schools have their own playoffs? That's a big question mark there. But now what's next for Harper Woods? You kind of think about with them, you lose Nate Rushell, that's a big loss for you, for Coach Rob Bowden. That's a big loss. You had Dakota Grant coming back. You had DeAndre Bin coming back. What now? Who's going to be the quarterback next year for this team? Who's going to be the quarterback? This has to be such a shock for the Pioneers. Because everybody was talking, you look at Harper Woods this season. You look at, of course, the wins at Clarkson and at Saline. And for them to lose to Dearborn Devon Child, they must have had to have seen something on film. Particularly in that Mason game where Harper Woods had problems. They had some problems in that game. But it all falls back to one thing. Turnovers. When you turn the ball over, you're not going to win games. When you turn it over on offense, you turn it over on special teams. Special teams, the touchdown by Vitti, that was the play. That was the game. That was the game right there. And that was off a Wildcat formation. There was a lot of Wildcat in that game. A lot of it. Whether on Harper Woods' side with Dakota Grant or on Dearborn Devon Child's side with Marcelo Vici. Or Vetti. And he's an Iowa commit. I know there's a lot of people at Harper Woods that are stunned right now. I know there is. But this is a lesson. Got to take care of the football. You take care of the football. You're probably playing Goodrich at Stony Creek in the region in the M-State semifinal. Not Dearborn Devon Child. So that's really the bottom line. That's really bottom line. What happened to Harperwoods? Really is. So we'll see what happens. A lot of questions, especially heading into the football side of things this upcoming weekend. Of course, every game is Saturday at 1 o'clock. I know in 8-man football, I think they got their state finals this weekend up at the Superior Dome in Marquette. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Of course, with the OAA, we got two teams that are playing in the state semifinals in Adams, going up against Troy Cass Tech, and, of course, Groves against Dexter. So we got other stories here to talk about as well. Let's talk Ferndale girls basketball. Obviously, Ferndale has had a lot of questions. A lot of questions. They have a new coach now, and April Johnson taking over the program. Johnson, of course, played at Detroit Renaissance during her high school days, and then played at Bethune Cookington University in college. She played point guard too, so she does bring that experience to a program that has just been basically starting over. You look at, of course, Ferndale. This Ferndale program is basically starting over. And you kind of think about, they had a lot of players leave that program. There were times last year they only had 6 girls play. 6-7 girls. Yet that team won a district championship and got the regional final for running into Detroit Edison. So I will be very curious to see what type of team Coach Johnson's going to have over at Ferndale. There are a lot of questions with Ferndale. Can Ferndale field a team? Can they field a program? Can Johnson put a program together? There's a lot of challenges Ferndale has. I mean, if they do have players come back, Zara Richardson's one, Janiyah Larry is one, but it's unknown if both of them have left the program or if they're still at Ferndale. There's so many questions with this program. Program strength is a serious concern for Ferndale. Then, seeing a lot of those girls leave Ferndale. So, for Coach Johnson, it's just trying to recruit the school. An option you can look at maybe is the volleyball program. You look at the success the volleyball program's having. We're going to talk volleyball in a couple minutes here. They're in the state semifinal. Or the state quarterfinal. An opportunity to go to Battle Creek. Be a tall order. But there is... there's an opportunity here for Coach Johnson, but she's going to have to recruit her school. Recruit kids to come out to play basketball. The hire was so late in the process that you're going to have to require patience. And can Johnson build this program? That is the big question for Ferndale, is can she build the program? You look at the division they're going to be in. Ferndale went down 2 divisions. They went down from the red to the blue. And you look at the teams in that division. You look at Adams. Adams, I think, is going to be much improved this year. A&T, well coached. Under coach and athletic director Shakita Cotring. You look at Troy. Troy's got a amount of pressure this year. Yes, they lost Diamond Prince, but they still got proven players Look at a player like Macy Zider there, Carly Higginbottom's there, Olivia Sprangler's there, and they're well coached under Coach Laura Guzman. But there's so much pressure with that program. Has to be. Then you look at Troy Athens. Troy Athens, they're a team that, you don't know what you're going to get with them. I mean, yes, they got to start playing Katrina Tasic. And you got Abby Malone there. But you don't know what you're going to get with Athens. Because it's either you're going to get good Athens or you're going to get bad Athens. I mean, consistency's been a big problem for Troy Athens and their coach, J.C. Klump. It's been a big problem. I mean, they got to get that turned around. That's going to be key for them. Then you look at Harper Woods. Harper Woods, we don't know what they're going to expect this year. For Coach Lanai West, we don't know what they're going to have. Okay, back. Latoya Tate, my bad. Latoya Tate. They do have a star playing Lanai West. But for Coach Tate, it's going to be interesting. Be very interesting. And then you're in a district with Detroit Country Day. You got your arch rival in Ferndale University. Ferndale University can be very interesting. Then you have Mass-Line's Lampier's been solid. Centerline's always been solid. Then Hazel Park. Hazel Park's an interesting team. And that's it, Birmingham Detroit Country Day. So that's going to be tall order. It's going to be extremely tall order. I mean, I'll be curious to see what Coach Johnson has with Ferndale. I'll be very curious. The numbers have to be key. Can she build a program? Can she build program strength? That is going to be the key for the Eagles. And for Coach Johnson, is can she build that program? And can she be, and building a foundation? That's the key. That's going to be the key going forward. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Now let's go to volleyball. Of course, we're in the state quarterfinal round, last week of volleyball season. Ferndale, of course, coming off a 5-set win against against Harper Woods Chandler Park Academy. Now they move on to state quarterfinal. Heading to Saline to take on Flat Rock. Flat Rock's been they've been just dominant this whole postseason. So you look at Flat Rock, this is going to be a really, really tough match for Ferndale. Because, Flat Rock has wins against Wixom St. Catharines and Academy. And then they knocked off Milan in the regional final. So it's going to be, and that was on their home floor at Flat Rock. So it's going to be a very tall order for Ferndale going up against a very good Flat Rock team. Ferndale really, you look at that district, really hadn't been tested much. And then for them to go into, for them to knock off Harper Woods Chandler Park Academy, that is a big deal. So for Ferndale, it's a golden opportunity for them to possibly get to Battle Creek. I know, but it's going to be a really, really tall task for them. Because Flat Rock's a very good team. I mean, they are very good. They're talented. They've only lost 5 games this year. They played a tough schedule. So Ferndale is going to have a very tall task ahead of them. So we'll see what happens. We're going to see what happens. And then we have a very, very interesting game at St. Clair Community College in Port Huron. I mean, I don't know if people would have ever thought that this would be a state quarterfinal. Considering what you had to deal with. And honestly, back to Ferndale for a minute. The winner of that one's either going to see Ogama Heights or Fremont in Battle Creek. So, so that'll be interesting in that one for Ferndale. But back to the D1 matchup. And who would ever thought you're saying to yourself, you have two OAA teams in the state quarterfinal. One of them will be in the Final Four. One of them is going to be in the Final Four. The winner will probably see Rockford in the state semifinal. But you look at Bloomfield Hills. Bloomfield Hills, they got a star player in Canada Male, who I honestly felt got robbed of Miss Volleyball. I honestly felt she got robbed of Miss Volleyball. For her determination, her mindset, driving that team against Birmingham Murray in the district final. And then she was solid against Grosse Pointe South. They played. Bloomfield Hills played Grosse Pointe South. And I know the Miss Volleyball winner is from Grosse Pointe South. But Bloomfield Hills beat them. So I don't know what the writers there were thinking. I honestly don't. But I kind of felt like the Mable, she should have been Miss Volleyball. But I'm not one of those sports writers, you know what I mean, that votes on that. But if I was, I would have given the Mable that award. I would have. She is a very talented player. Very talented. And she'll probably say, I want the big mitten. And they're more than capable of getting the big mitten. They're more than capable. Then you're looking at Oxford. Oxford is the classic Cinderella story. I mean, they are living on a prayer when it comes to 5-set games. Wow, I just heard Ian Locke here say something about that. Anyway, you think about Oxford, and the reason why I call them a Cinderella story is you look at every game they've had from the district semifinal and the postseason has gone 5 sets. Every one of them. Whether it's Lake Orion, Clarkston, Chippewa Valley, Romeo. Every one of those games have gone 5 sets. And yet they found ways to win. They got a lot of experience on that team. But their best player is a junior. So that says a lot. You got to give their coaching staff a lot of credit. You got to do that. I mean, Oxford, they won their first district championship and their first regional championship since 1997. And they just won their first district final, I think, since 2002. So this might go down as one of Oxford's best teams in school history. And you look at the division Oxford was in this year, they were in the white. Bloomfield Hills was in the red. So this is a very interesting matchup. But you look at Bloomfield Hill, you look at Oxford. Oxford this postseason has been a giant slayer. I mean, when you look at the teams that knocking off Lake Orion, Clarkson, and Romeo, those are volleyball powerhouses. Those are big-time powerhouses. And now Bloomfield Hills, they're starting to become a volleyball power. So this is going to be a very interesting game over at Port Huron. Because you think about this, Oxford has been known as Cinderella. Bloomfield Hills has one of the best players in the state. This is going to be very interesting. Plus, the other storyline to this is, and this was a story that you kind of think about it, is I think Bloomfield Hills' coach used to be at Oxford. So that was a storyline that I did not expect to be on this thing here. I mean, like, that's another storyline. You know, everything you look at Bloomfield Hills, you know, everything starts and ends with Kayla Namabe. And I do apologize to her if I mispronounce her name. I do apologize. But you look at Bloomfield Hills, yeah, it is Brian Kim, former coach he used to be at Oxford. So that's another storyline that's put in this matchup. It's Brian Kim going up against his former team. Former school. So that's going to be very, very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of storylines. Oxford being the Cinderella. Bloomfield Hills riding their star player. Whoever wins that's probably staring at Rockford in the state semifinal. And then you look at the possibility on the other side. You know, you're probably either going to see Farmers Hills Mercy, maybe in the state final, if the OAA schools can get there. So that's going to be interesting. I think Farmington Hills Mercy wins that side of the draw. I know Coach Loretta Vogel extremely well. She's one of the best minds in the game. And of course, we know Farmington Hills Mercy, they're a Catholic League power. It'll be very interesting. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this one goes. This Division 1 part of the bracket goes. But I'll tell you what. I still think Bloomfield Hills is the favorite, you know, because of the Mame. If that game goes 5, I'm going to be shocked. I'm going to be absolutely shocked. Because, I mean, Oxford, with Oxford, there's no words to describe the run they're in right now. There really isn't. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. If Oxford shocks Bloomfield Hills and goes to state semifinals, goes to Battle Creek, I would be absolutely shocked. And they have a shot. And they have a chance. We're going to see what happens. A lot of good volleyball this weekend. If Ferndale wins, and then whoever wins in the OA between Bloomfield Hills and Oxford will be in Battle Creek for the Final Four. Could the OA have their first state championship in volleyball since 2018? The last time an OA school won it was Lake Orion. So we'll see what happens. We're going to see. All right, I'm signing off here. I'd like to thank Coach Flaherty for calling in this week here on the podcast. Make sure you follow the blog at SagamorFooty at blogspot.com. Also around the OA at Wibbly.com as well. So keep an eye on everything going on around the league this week. A lot of basketball going on this week here. Of course, boys basketball had the tryouts last week. Girls basketball is going to have their tryouts starting this week. So, of course, we'll keep an eye on the previews as well. I'm going to release the previews sometime this weekend. So, we'll see what happens. Everybody, we're signing off here. Take care. God bless. And I'll see you all next week. God bless and God bless all.